Imagine stepping up to do the right thing, only to lose your job for it. That's exactly what happened to a young waiter who simply wanted to help an elderly black woman struggling at a busy restaurant. He didn't think twice about offering her a seat and a warm meal, but his kind gesture quickly turned into a nightmare when his manager found out. Fired on the spot, he walked out feeling defeated and confused. But just when he thought things couldn't get any worse, the woman's husband stepped in, and what happened next left everyone speechless. This story is about kindness, injustice, and an unexpected twist that will make you think twice about standing up for what's right. Stick around to find out how one small act of compassion sparked something much bigger. You won't believe how it all unfolds. The waiter, named Jake, had always believed that kindness should come before anything else. He had been working at the restaurant for over a year, earning praise from customers for his friendly attitude and willingness to go the extra mile. But that day, when he saw the elderly woman struggling to find a seat, he didn't think twice. She looked tired, and no one else seemed to notice her. Jake quickly pulled out a chair and offered to take her order, even though the restaurant had a strict policy about seating customers in a specific order. His manager, however, didn't see it the same way. Within minutes, Jake was pulled aside, reprimanded, and fired on the spot. Shocked and embarrassed, he walked out with his head down, wondering if he had done the wrong thing. But just as he was leaving, the elderly woman's husband arrived, and the look on his face said everything. Jake stood outside the restaurant, his mind racing. He could still hear the manager's harsh words echoing in his ears. You can't just break the rules for anyone. But deep down, Jake knew he had only done what felt right. As he took a deep breath, he noticed the elderly woman's husband approaching. The man was tall, with a serious expression, and his eyes locked onto Jake's. For a moment, Jake thought he might be angry, but instead, the man spoke in a calm, steady voice. "I saw what you did for my wife," he said, "and I need to talk to you." Jake hesitated, unsure of what to expect. Was this man about to defend the restaurant's decision, or was he about to say something that would change everything? Meanwhile, inside the restaurant, whispers had already started among the other staff. Some thought Jake had been reckless, while others quietly admired his courage. Jake's heart pounded as he followed the elderly man to a quiet spot away from the restaurant entrance. The man's serious expression didn't change, and Jake couldn't tell if he was about to get scolded or thanked. "My wife told me what happened," the man finally said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You were the only one who showed her kindness today." Jake nodded, unsure of what to say. Before he could respond, the man reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card, handing it to him without another word. Jake glanced down and froze. The name on the card was instantly recognizable. This man wasn't just anyone. Meanwhile, inside the restaurant, the tension was rising. Other customers had noticed the scene earlier, and some were starting to ask questions. Employees whispered nervously, and the manager, now aware of the growing attention, seemed uneasy. Something big was about to happen. Jake stared at the business card in his hand, trying to process what it meant. The name on it, Richard Blackwell, belonged to one of the most influential figures in the city. He was a well-known philanthropist with connections to some of the biggest companies around. Jake's mind raced. Why would someone like that be married to an elderly woman in need of help at a restaurant? Richard could see the confusion on Jake's face and gave a small, almost amused smile. "I'm sure you're wondering why I'm here. It's not just about what happened today, it's about something bigger." Before Jake could ask more, Richard's tone shifted, becoming more intense. "You're not the first to question the system here," he said, nodding toward the restaurant, "and you won't be the last. But trust me, if you want to make a real change, you'll need more than just good intentions." Jake's head spun. What was Richard getting at? Suddenly, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from his friend, one of the other waiters still working inside. "They're talking about firing you for good now. The manager's on the phone with HR." The words hit Jake like a punch to the gut. He wasn't just being punished for helping a customer. This was escalating into something far more dangerous. Just as he started to process the situation, a car pulled up at the curb, and a man in a suit stepped out, heading straight for the restaurant. He had the same cold, calculating look Jake had seen in the manager earlier. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but Jake still couldn't understand the full picture. What did Richard Blackwell mean by more than good intentions? Was he offering Jake an out, or was something much darker at play here? Jake's heart raced as Richard Blackwell's words echoed in his mind. The car door slammed, and the suited man walked past them, heading toward the restaurant with a determined stride. It felt like everything was moving in slow motion, but Jake couldn't look away. Was this the moment everything was going to change, or was it about to fall apart? Richard took a deep breath, his expression unreadable. "Don't worry," he said, eyes locking with Jake's. "They think they're in control, but they're not. You've done the hard part. Now, it's time to see who's really pulling the strings." Before Jake could ask what he meant, the suited man entered the restaurant, and the door swung shut behind him. Jake felt a strange sense of urgency. A few tense minutes later, his phone buzzed again. It was a text from his friend inside. "It's happening. The HR guy is here, and they're about to fire the manager. He's been taking money under the table." Jake froze. He had no idea that something so sinister was going on behind the scenes. His mind was spinning, but just as it felt like everything might fall into place, Richard spoke again, his voice soft but filled with conviction. "It's not just about you, Jake. It's about everyone in this place." Suddenly, the restaurant doors flew open. The suited man stepped out, looking shaken, followed by the manager who looked pale and defeated. The HR representative walked toward Jake, a grim look on his face. "You're reinstated," he said simply. Jake could hardly believe it, but as he glanced at Richard, something in his gut told him this wasn't over. Richard smiled, a knowing look in his eyes. Just then, the manager stormed past, whispering to someone on the phone. The words that reached Jake's ears made his stomach drop. "It's not over yet. We'll get him next time." Jake felt a chill. This was just the beginning. As the manager finally realizes who the woman truly is, his face turns pale. The shock is palpable, and there's an awkward silence as everyone in the bank watches. The woman, however, remains calm and composed. She takes a moment to explain that she's been a long-time customer and, more importantly, the owner of the bank, a fact that had clearly been overlooked. The manager stumbles over his words, apologizing profusely, but she simply smiles, asking him to ensure better training for the staff in the future. The incident quickly becomes a lesson not just for the manager, but for everyone in the room. It's a powerful reminder that assumptions based on race or appearance can lead to embarrassing and damaging mistakes. The woman's grace under pressure leaves a lasting impression, showing that real leadership and power often come with humility and understanding. By the end of the encounter, the bank manager learns a hard but valuable lesson in respect and professionalism. This story serves as a call to be more mindful of our actions, reminding us that anyone, regardless of background, can hold positions of influence. It also highlights the importance of treating others with dignity and not underestimating anyone based on superficial judgments.